They're not toxic, they're not mean, but they're also not leading. Could this be you? Well, if so, stick around so that we can talk about it. Welcome to Crossroads and Catalysts, the podcast with Shenita B. I am your host. This is where we discuss the thoughtful, wise, and strategic perspective at a crossroads can be the catalyst for change. Before we get started, I have a favor to ask. I would like for you to leave a 5-star review if you have gained any value out of these podcasts. What this does is it helps the algorithm to make recommendations for the podcast, and it also makes it easier for people who are looking for career and leadership development podcasts to find me. And on the second thing, don't be shy about sharing your stories with me. I would love to hear about them. Send an email to me at theshanita.brown@gmail.com, and you may just hear a future podcast showcasing your particular topic. So, today's episode, we are focusing on the importance of empathy in leadership. As you know, some leaders are completely disconnected, and this may actually describe you, and it may be a situation where you're just uncomfortable. Who knows? Maybe you've just never thought that it was really that important to make the connection. And what I'm talking about when I say make a connection with people, you're actually present with them. You're listening to them. You're lending an ear. You're assisting them and providing the support that they need. And you're offering constructive feedback to help them on their career trajectory. And there are a lot of leaders who struggle with this particular aspect of leadership. They can fulfill the actual title as far as whatever technical skills might be required, but they are missing this major component. And this is something that can actually make or break a team because if you're not empathetic, if you're not listening, if you're not mentoring, then your team may not trust you. And it may just be that when they encounter scenarios or situations that they feel are problematic, they won't even bring them to you because they've maybe felt like or seen that you're not going to do anything about it. So, we want to talk about what we can do to make ourselves more present, more empathetic as leaders so that we can develop those relationships and help keep not only the team built up, but move the organization forward. Because some leaders lack this particular trait, or maybe they've just checked out and they don't think that it's important. It doesn't matter to people that you're not a difficult boss or a mean boss because they're the ones who are defining what that is anyway. And if they have determined that you're not someone that they can turn to when they need assistance with their work, or they recognize that you're not understanding when they share something with you, maybe that may be a little bit more personal in nature, but it does impact their work, then you've kind of blocked off your team. You've put a wall between yourself and them. And this is definitely not the place where you want to find yourself because it removes and pulls away the cohesion that you really need for your team to be able to stick together. You're supposed to be there to assist with doing that. And if they don't feel like they can trust you, you can just pretty much hang it up. So at first, it might seem rather harmless. And maybe you have a boss who's like this as well. They're just completely hands off. They're not at all interested or engaged in your work or in talking to you. It's only enough to pass along some information and nothing more. And they may not be addressing anything. And sometimes that can work out really great because you can kind of fly under the radar if that's what you're intending to do. You don't have any real involvement with your leader. They're just leaving you to roam and do whatever it is that you need to do to get the work done. But what happens when you want some feedback, when you're trying to understand if you're on the right track? Some people are really good at assessing that, and others may not be so good at assessing that. And if you are the leader who is responsible to help guide them, then your presence and your interaction and engagement is going to help move them forward. Not to mention, if there are some conflicts and some concerns that need to be addressed, and you're completely aware of them, but you're not doing anything about it. This is definitely a big problem because there are a lot of people who are struggling in their work and they have shared information with their bosses. They've really drilled down to what the actual problem is, and there's nothing that is being done on their behalf. And if it's within your power to do so, you have an obligation to address it. And that's what you want to do. So, what happens when you avoid the connection as well as the confrontation? Well, what you end up doing is you end up alienating your team. And you definitely don't want to find yourself in a position where you're alienating people from you because you're not going to get the work that you need. You're not going to really, you need the connection as much as you might want to discount it or dismiss it, even. That is a necessary component to ensuring that your people are excelling. You want people to excel when they come to work. You want them to get out of bed and you want them to come to work and be ready to go, despite some of the issues that they might be facing even in their personal lives. You don't want them to show up at work and feel like they're constantly facing a wall or some type of barrier to get their work done because you have chosen to disengage from them. And so I would say that one of the questions that you want to ask yourself is, are you leading to protect yourself or are you leading to empower others? And part of empowering others means being present with them so that you can interact with them on a regular basis and engage with them so that they recognize that you are sincere about your involvement with them. When people feel like you're just treating them like a widget or a number, they can sense it and they don't like it and you won't get their best because they recognize that, hey, you're not really there to help them. You're not really there to assist them. You're only looking out for yourself, and that's really not where you want to be. And of course, we all have our real life examples as it relates to things like this because I've had some excellent bosses and I've had some not so excellent bosses. The one thing that I can say is that all of my bosses, I think, have been decent people. They've had some really nice characteristics, but some have fallen short in the way of empathy and engagement. And it's not as if they don't ask questions. It's, I think the problem has come in when it really boiled down to conflict, sharing concerns with them, and then also sharing conflict. And some of the bosses that I've had, they have completely avoided confrontation. And as a leader, it behooves you to be able to address confrontation, not only in a professional manner, but in a way that shows your colleague or your team member that, hey, I really do care about this and I really do want to assist, and let me just think through the best course of action for us to take. And maybe it's not something that you do solo, maybe it's something that you do with them or with some other people involved, but at least you're doing something. And I can share with you an example, even a friend of mine, even a former colleague, shared with me. She's been working for an organization for several years, and she was really excited about this job. It's a remote, excuse me, it's a remote position. So she is at home 100% of the time. And she has not had one meeting, one singular meeting with this person, with her leader who would share any type of feedback with her. No feedback, no metrics, nothing. And she has asked many times, "Hey, can we have some time to talk?" And it's just been conflict after conflict because this leader refuses to engage. I mean, absolutely refuses. So much so to the point to where, because they're both in separate states, this leader actually came to the state where my friend lives, and this was like a 6-hour drive for this leader. She came to the state, and my friend said, "Hey, well, since you're here, can we get together and go to lunch and just talk?" The leader said, "No, I got to get back." And she didn't meet with her. She left. Very strange, very bizarre, but this is an example, and this might be rather extreme as an example, but it's one that's real nonetheless, because I know the character of my colleague. It might, of course, you're always wondering, okay, well, what are some of the additional circumstances and the context around a situation like this? But this is not a far-fetched scenario. I don't think that it's that unique because I've seen it, I've observed it in the workplace where colleagues have shared direct information, effectively communicated that information to their leader, and their leader, while they're sitting there across the table listening, they're feckless. They're not doing anything about it. So rather than these being constructive times of sharing information and saying, hey, this is a concern or this is a problem or I need this from you, Their leader is just kind of sitting there with their arms folded, not necessarily as if they don't completely care, but not they don't care enough to do something about it. So the fact that you don't care enough to do something about it sends the message that you don't care. People don't want to simply hear you say, "Oh, well, I understand." They want to see some action, and they want to see that you are actually supporting them in their endeavors. So, whether that is providing some feedback or trying to help clear up a problem, what you want to show them is that you are sincere and genuine in your efforts to assist them and support them. That's really what it comes down to. So, if you're this type of leader, I'm inviting you to recognize that you may be in the self preservation mode and not in a mode where you're trying to empower your team. And that's how important it is because people will make their own assessments about you, whether they're right or whether they're wrong. It does matter because it's going to either put a barrier between you and them or it's going to knock down walls and you can walk in partnership with your team as you're leading them. And I can tell you that early in my career, I recognized that it was necessary to have some empathy for your team because when you become responsible for people and you have to be the one who documents when they're in and when they're out of the office, that you have to deal with whatever problems that arise with their work. You have to be the one responsible to provide feedback, whether that's you know, positive or not so positive. You're the one who's responsible for that. I can tell you, I've not always been the most compassionate person, and I've recognized that about myself, but I have made it my plight to ensure that when I engage with people who are under my leadership, that I am doing so that they recognize that I actually care about them because I do care. It's just that it hasn't always been easy for me to demonstrate that so I've made major strides in the way that I interact with my teams over the years because I want them to recognize, hey, I do care about you and I care about your circumstances and I certainly care about your growth. And if you want to grow and develop, I want to assist you in doing that. And because again, it is not my top trait naturally and inherently, I make an effort to do that every day when I show up to work. And it definitely makes it easier when you work at an organization that has values that align with your own personal values, because that's another way for you to be held accountable to do what is good in that context. And I think that that's extremely helpful. So you're probably wondering, well, what can I do to be a more empathetic and engaged leader? Okay, well, I'm glad that you asked that question because I have several tips for you that I think will assist you. And the first thing that you should do is just get to know your team. And it can start with as simple a question as, what do you like? How do you prefer that I communicate with you? Do you prefer to meet in person? Do you prefer a phone call? Do you prefer an email? There are all kinds of ways that we can engage people and you want to do it and make it a two-way street because communication of course is a two-way street. You have a certain communication style, they have a certain communication style. I think that the onus is on you as the leader to help find that medium that makes sense because of course there are requirements for the job, but you also want to let that person know you are part of the team. I care about you and what works for you. So let's see where we can come together to push this forward. It's as simple as that. Okay, so then number two, ask them, well, how can I support you in your work? And it might be going back and looking at something recently that might have taken place where maybe you weren't as involved or as active as you might have needed to be and addressing that and handling that. There are all kinds of things that might come forth when you ask a question on how I can support you. And make sure that you don't put an expectation that they have to answer you right then and there. Maybe they need to think about how it is that you can assist them and support them in their work. And if they don't know right away, you could also offer some examples. Are there things that you wanted some feedback on? Do you have some personal development that you would like to be involved in? Are you looking for a particular type of feedback? There are all kinds of questions that you can ask your team to assist you with engaging them, which will give you the opportunity to show empathy toward them. Number three, you want to set up regular check ins with your team so that you have these regular opportunities to not only provide them feedback, but to get feedback from them. Make it easy for them to share information with you. If people feel afraid to talk to you, they will not share what they think, whether it's about the work or whether it's about you. So you have to let them know that when you're having your conversations and you're requesting feedback, that you will not take it personally if they say something that you don't particularly agree with. Because it's not about necessarily being in agreement with one another. It's about sharing information. It's about sharing our thoughts and our opinions about certain things. And people do not want to feel like they will be retaliated against or that they will be given the side eye, for lack of a better term. So let them know that it's okay to share openly. But you're going to have to build some trust, because if you've already laid a foundation where they have recognized that you're just not really involved, or you don't really care, it's going to take a while to build up to that. So don't go in the office and think that now that you've had this revelation and you're ready to do things differently, that they're going to jump on board. You're going to have to gain their trust. So be prepared for that. And then number four, always, always, always take their concerns seriously. And this is even if you don't think that it's something that is serious. If you think that it's silly, you still need to take it seriously. You don't want to make people feel like their thoughts and their concerns are childish or immature. And they may very well be, but there's a way to address that without making people feel like idiots. You don't want to embarrass people, again, because you don't want to shut down the communication. And offer as honest feedback as you possibly can and make it constructive. So if you're telling people that something that they've done is incorrect or that they could improve in a certain area, be sure to be clear and honest in that, and ask them if you think that it's a fair assessment. I typically would do that when I was offering feedback to team members, especially for those who were struggling with their work, whether they misunderstood or they were just having some difficulty understanding concepts and theories, whatever it was. I would tell them, okay, that this is what I'm seeing. We've talked about this several times. And it seems to me that you're having some issues with this. And I think that this might be why. Do you think that that's reasonable? Does that seem like a fair assessment? And they would tell me yes or no. Generally, it was yes, because I'm pretty fair in my assessments. And it might take some practice for you to do that. Maybe you're new in your leadership journey. Maybe you're not so new, but you've never really been held to account to do things in this manner. Well, today is the perfect day to start something new in this regard, because I think that you will find that this will be helpful to you in the long term. You will build stronger relationships. You will have a better retention rate on your team, which is definitely what you want. And you will find that people will be more open and honest with you, and they will share information. They will share ideas with you because they feel more comfortable around you. And this is a part of becoming an empathetic leader. It's not all about emotions, but it's about letting people know that you are there. And it's having a self awareness of self that shows that, hey, I can recognize when I might have fallen short for some of these things. And now I'm ready to move forward and become a better leader, because that's what this is about. Okay? So I would like for you to ask yourself this question. What would your team say that it feels like to work for you? And if you're not confident that the answer would be, oh, well, I like working for them, and we have a really good working relationship. Well, then there's always some work to do. And this is something I need to ask myself as well, because all of us have room for improvement. And that's why we have these conversations, is so that we can improve. This is not something that I just share with you. This is something that I live every day. And as a leader, I always want to be better, and I know that you want to be better as well. That's which is why you're listening. So we have come to the end of today's episode, and I am so grateful that you joined me. So let's continue to improve ourselves as we go on our leadership journey, as we continue on our career trajectory, wherever that takes us. And don't forget to like and subscribe and follow on whichever platform you're using to listen to the podcast. And remember, crossroads reveal who you are, catalysts shape who you become. Every decision matters. So make it count. Talk to you next week.